Hey there, everybody out there listening in podcast world. Welcome to the Happy Meter podcast. This is Kevin Ford, joined as always, still coming to us from New York State. My best friend, Justin Garrett. Justin, how you holding up north up there?
We're hanging in there. I've been trying to make the best out of the situation still, and it's been a lot of good stuff. I mean, I was just out kayaking today. It was sunny out, and got out there early this morning. And I've been able to get a lot of running in around a lake that I live on called Swan Lake. So just trying to make the best of the outdoors. I certainly miss you guys in Baltimore, but I have been able to enjoy the outdoors, which has been great.
Yeah, you guys aren't all right up on top of each other up in New York State as we are down here. I imagine there weren't a lot of people kayaking within 6 feet of you.
I don't think so. No, some fish maybe underneath me, but nope.
Yeah, I've had to change my running habits down here in the city just so that I don't run in. Like the waterfront is gorgeous. That's why everyone's there. Can't run there anymore. Patterson Park, magnificent. That's why everyone's there. Can't run there. So I've been more just like running in the neighborhood and that sort of thing. But still good to get sunshine.
Well, you've been killing the running game. For those of you out there who don't know, Kevin and I are accountability partners for exercise, and Kevin sends me a screenshot every day when he gets done running, and it's pretty cool to watch your running grow. I remember a few years ago, you used to come back and just hate running, and now you get pretty excited and you go out and you feel really good when you get back.
I do. I will say there's still that block. It's more like, what do I hate more, being stuck in my home or the act of running? And it turns out I hate being stuck in the house more. So, but I appreciate you being my accountability buddy. I know when you look at that screenshot every day, it's a paltry effort compared to what you're able to do. But I got to start somewhere.
Well, again, when I look at a book and it's 300-400 pages and I'm trying to bust through it, you look at me and laugh because it takes me a very long time to do it. So we both have our things, Kev.
Hey, and those first steps, the hard ones, it's the magic of compounding interest.
Right, exactly. Um,
Throwback.
right. So Kevin, our last episode, a lot of people really enjoyed it. We got a lot of cool feedback as far as us bringing up a lot of things we're doing to stay sane and continue to move life forward during this time. It was a lot of fun to talk about. And again, all of our friends and our nurses and our police friends that are still out there working super hard for us while we're inside and delivering remote student learning. Shout out to all of them again, because I still think about you all the time.
Absolutely. As far as with teachers go with the remote learning, you just had some big news, right? Something just came through.
Yeah, so I work down in Baltimore City, and we have a few students that just need a little extra help with some technology issues that they have at home. And so about 3 weeks ago, I put on a donors choose request for some electronics for kids in my room, so for some additional laptops. And Kevin, do you want to describe what donors choose is?
Yeah, so I mean, now that I'm outside of public schools and I'm at a much more affluent school, it's not something I've had to use for quite a long time. But it's kind of like you put out to your network on a profile a project to be funded that can be crowdsourced, right? So it's
Right.
kind of like a GoFundMe, but it's specifically for educational purposes.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So what I did was I put a bunch of laptops on there, and so people were able to donate towards my class and for those resources. And the total was a little bit more than $1,000. And within the last 2.5 weeks, it was totally funded.
Wow.
I was blown away by the generosity of so many people out there. And so all the listeners out there that could have saw the post on my Facebook page that donated, shout out to them. I also have my math teacher who I had in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and no, 3 years, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. She, every time I post something on my classroom, she is one of the first to respond. And I have not seen her in probably 10 years, but every time she writes back with such a positive message about the work that we're doing down in Baltimore. And I love her so much. She always has been very supportive, and she is very generous with our donations. And so again, shout out to Miss Grabowski, who was really transformational about me being a math teacher, but on top of that has been super generous in helping kids that I work with.
I feel like right there speaks so much to why we're trying to cater our conversation and our efforts to those true public servants, right? To the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, the medical staff. These are the people that give the most of themselves, who often don't really have someone looking out for them. For
Right.
the Mr. Bowskis of the world, who are going to give, even in a time like this, to your donors choose and to your students. That's why it's nice to try to throw out some financial wellness and all that kind of advice.
And that's why I decided to launch Garritt Financial Solutions, Kevin, because again, I really didn't find that there was a lot of equitable access to high quality financial advice from people who were fee only, which means they are not able to take commissions from outside providers. And so when I decided to launch this, it is the idea of how do I serve people who serve the best possible way I can. And so, and this dream that I had 3, 4 years ago, it's amazing to watch this start to blossom now. And that's one positive thing with this time off, from having to go in and out of the school building. I have been able to have a little bit more time to focus on clients and helping them out. So pretty cool thing here.
Absolutely. The other focus of both of our attention lately, as we started to do last time, is like to just kind of keep sane under quarantine
Yeah.
and to find ways to relive our favorite happy meter things. We got to tell the people, you have a great idea that I plan to steal from you. So
Yeah.
I'm on goofy spring break right now. I've gotten through my, presumed incubation period, and I plan to quarantine briefly with my brother. And I'm stealing your idea. So what are you doing today?
So my mom, who's the creative master of the family, she came in for dinner the other day with a Facebook meme, and it had an idea for a house pub crawl. And so within an hour later, my mom comes back with all these ideas and what we're going to do in the house, and what we're going to do in the house to make this happen. So her idea was that there's 4 of us right now here, and so we all picked out of a hat what room we were going to own. And so someone had the living room, someone had the kitchen, and so on. So 4 rooms, and in each room there was somebody who was the moderator of that room, and they had to pick out what drink they were going to serve to their guests. They had to come up with a game, and they had to make an appetizer to be able to share with us. And we rotated room to room to room, and also you got to select the music in each one of those rooms. So it was a total blast. We had a lot of fun.
I love it. So you get to theme it, the food, the drink, and the game. So are you willing to give us a preview? What were you going to
Sure.
do? Do you know?
Well, so I am going to make a strawberry gin drink for the room, and then I'm making chicken wings, and we have an air fryer, which I've used a few times, which I'm really excited about. And then of course I'm gonna have Kenny Chesney on, because I wish I was somewhere on a beach right now. So
Yeah,
that'll be awesome.
so close.
Yeah. So I think that's my ideas now, and I can't wait to see what my mom comes up with, because she's really creative in these ways.
I'm 100% stealing that from you. That's such a good idea, Justin. And
Yep.
shout out to Mama Garrett.
Yes. Shout out.
Okay. So I know that today we want to keep building some of the basic skills to shift and to grow into your financial wellness, such that we can start investing in ourselves and really moving that happy meter. And today we're covering the basics, right?
Yes, we are. So we're going to cover the 3 main foundational pieces of your foundation of your pathway to financial independence. So the first one is making sure we have a strong budget that's aligned to our happy meter. Number 2 is to make sure we are taking a shovel and we're digging out of debt if we have any. And then number 3 is to make sure that we can sleep at night and create a emergency fund.
Okay.
Okay.
And as always, the very first principle of the happy meter is to be honest with yourself. And that means certainly acknowledging your real financial struggles, like various debts and other burdens. But it's also about being honest about what drives you and what you love and what you want to invest in. So bear that in mind, everyone, as Justin guides us through this. All right. So Justin, first step, we're talking about building a budget, which thank God you've been able to help me do. What's your advice?
I think a lot of people out there don't have a written budget. And so a budget is your roadmap to where you're going. And the number one thing is that it allows you to assign every dollar you make, those hard-earned dollars that you make, it allows you to take those and assign them to a specific task. So number one, when we make a budget, we start on top. So this could be on a napkin, this could be on a piece of paper. There's also a ton of apps and access to budgets online. Some people use Mint, or some people use what's called Every Dollar app. All of those are free resources. Even this is at the kitchen table, the napkin still works as long as you can do math. So number one on top, we write how much we make per month. So take your paycheck. Typically you get paid twice. Add the money up and put that on top, income. Then we're going to subtract our first thing, and that is what we must pay for. So this could be rent, this could be electricity, this could be food, whatever it is, those are musts that you must have. Like there's not really a negotiation there. So income minus the must, then we subtract and we have an amount. Good so far, good, Kev?
Yeah, so far in there. What are some of the most common, just for people who've never done this before, some of the most common things that you have to lock in specifically? So I know for me, rent, utilities like water and stuff like that. I feel like I sometimes forget that I'm paying for a Netflix subscription. Sure. It's not a lot, but I need to account for that $10 or whatever in my budget. What are
Yep.
some other things that are the musts that people should account for?
Yeah, so auto, anything to do with your cars or transportation is typically something, or insurances that you need to pay for are typically things that need to be in that amount. So whether that's paying off your car, or whether that's car insurance, whether that's life insurance, those things that really are not negotiable, you have to cover. Cell phone, another one that typically we see.
For sure.
If you have any kids, could be daycare, but those are really non-negotiables.
Yeah. One of
Yeah.
the ones I remember was tough for me when we first started this was my grocery bill,
Yep.
because unlike rent, which is monthly, groceries was a weekly expense. But on top of that, it took some serious self-reflection and really tracking those receipts to realize that what I thought I was paying a week was less than what I was actually paying a week. And so once I realized that, I have to confront, what am I spending this money on? Do I really need to make these purchases? And
Right.
then most important, and the one you're most proud of, is, do I really even need to be shopping at the Canton Safeway, or should I be going to Aldi or some other far superior and cheaper grocery store?
You know,
But I knew that was a big one for me to get into my monthly budget.
I think that was a turning point in our relationship when you trusted me enough to move away from Safeway and our ShopRite or one of those kind of providers, and you moved to Aldi's. And now there's no turning back, right, Kev?
No turning back.
What are you typically saving on a week now since you moved into Aldi's?
It cut my bill in half. And part of that's also like just the health and wellness and eating a little bit cleaner and better. But I like what I'm getting at Aldi's better. I like the challenge of not just always getting the same thing. I have to get what they have there. Although normally they have everything I want. All my staples are always there. But yeah, I went from, I think, $80 a week thereabouts to closer to 40.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really about a 50% decrease in that line item of my budget, which of course helps in every other element.
Again, you save $40 there. Now it's $40 going towards other goals. And it
Yeah.
didn't move your happy meter. Actually, it seemed like it actually moved your happy meter up by making that small change. Pretty cool.
All right,
Yeah.
so we start with our income,
Yep.
subtract the requirements, which, like you said, are rent, childcare, car. I added groceries and other things. What's the next step?
Yeah. So the next step, typically people then move to fund money or discretionary funds. I actually disagree with that. I think the next step is to pay yourself. So that could mean a few things. If you are in a step right now where you have debt, then that means you have your exact amount of money or more that is going towards shoveling you out of debt. That if you're out of debt, that could be going towards your emergency fund, which we're going to talk about next. And if not, it also could, if you're done with those two things, it could be onto your retirement funds or investment accounts where you pay yourself first. And when you do that now you're able to set an automatic contribution. Like if you know, okay, I can pay myself $400 here a month, then you can go and you can set up your automatic contributions from either your bank account or your investment account or your retirement account, and you can have that money be sent automatically over to your funds, and then it's out of sight, out of mind, and it automatically happens. And too many people pay themselves last.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people spend, and then whatever's left at the end of the month, they throw in accounts. It should be very intentional and planned. Like, hey, these things I have to spend, but this chunk is all going to make my dreams and goals happen in the future. Let's actually put that in the budget and let's assign a task to those things.
Yeah. And you suggested that even paying to get out of debt is a version of paying yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yep. It's still making your net worth, your overall value, your net worth increase. All right. So if you can either lower your debt or you can increase your assets, either one. Yep.
I feel like some of that has such a mindset issue or like a psychology to it that when you're actually in debt, especially something frivolous like credit card debt, there's a feeling of like, that was bad, I just want it to be gone. And if I'm paying myself first, I should put it into savings or an investment or something like that. But in reality, just switch your mindset and realize, yeah, you're going to be kicking money, income into a hole because you're filling a hole. This was the big thing you helped me get to.
Yes.
And now that I'm out of it, to be able to know that I was always paying myself, I'm now in a habit of that. And that $800 I was kicking towards credit card to that hole, man, I can't wait to see what you and I come up with to do with it.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So then after that, what you're left with is the things that drive your happiness, right? So this could be vacation money. This could be taking your kids out to here or whatever makes you happy. And based on, sure.
What about safety net? So before you get too much into that, right? How much, or should we be talking about with safety net?
Sure. So step 2 is, well, I want to get to the safety net emergency fund at the end though, Kev. So
okay.
That amount though, that gap though, where you're paying yourself, it could either be going towards your safety net or retirement. And we're going to talk about that order in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
But then the final thing is your fund money, about what's driving your happiness, where your money wants to go to be able to push your life in a happy direction. And so for some people that's saving for a trip. For some people that is going out to eat. That, so for whatever, whatever drives your happy meter.
Okay.
Okay. So step one, most important, is building your roadmap to your future. And that is, again, is starting at your income, subtracting your musts, then paying yourself to either, again, paying off your debt, could be contributing towards emergency fund or your retirement accounts. And then finally, what's left is your fund money. That's
Perfect.
typically this, I think, the best strategy people should use. And notice how I talked about paying yourself and assigning dollars to yourself and setting up those automatic contributions, because that's how wealth gets built. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Step
that's
two.
our budget. Yep.
Yep. So once we have our budget, now we're talking about, okay, our debts. Having debts oftentimes is really, really troublesome, specifically debts with high interest rates. So this is the biggest and most popular one, is our credit card debt. 20 years ago, when we didn't have credit cards going around, a lot of people didn't, we didn't have an opportunity to go and get loans as easy as we do now. But having that credit card debt is killing people. So it's typically they're having 20 to 30% interest rate, and it's just burying your hold. And so we have got to, if you are in credit card debt, it is making sure that you are with full speed paying off those credit card debts. That doesn't mean minimums. That means at full speed, every single dollar you can putting towards those. They will crush you, and they are preventing you from becoming financially independent in your future.
And we'll probably have an episode about that down the line a little bit, some of the specific strategies. But absolutely, the most important thing is to find your best path to get out of that situation.
Yep. So another debt that's often is car debt. Most car debt in America is between 4 and 6%. Again, throw your money towards getting rid of that debt. Your car is something that's going to continue to depreciate or go down in value. That and your credit card debt, you got to go hard at. And that is before we start talking about heavy investments and everything else. You've got to get rid of those debts. They're killing you. The next two debts, which are very controversial, whether you should pay them off really quickly or not, and it's really based on your personality and the interest rate that you're paying, and that is student loan debt and your living situation, so your mortgage. Now, for me, I'm a big advocate is credit card debt, car debt, and student loan debt. I want to hammer out as quick as possible. Those are typically more interest rates that are above 4%, all the way up to 30%. I don't want to pay anything towards those more than I have to. I want to throw all my money into those categories. So my suggestion is, for debt, we go really heavy into those categories. And a mortgage, since it is increasing in value, that is something where typically paying as you go, that's fine. Or you can refinance and shorten the amount of time that you have there. But what I really want to focus on is paying off the main debt, which is your credit card, your car, and your student loan debt.
Okay. So after we take care of all those steps, we're finally in that space where I'm about to be considering how to use my money.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Sure. So actually, one more thing before we do that, Kev, I want to shout out, there's a few people that I have seen do some really cool things with debt. So number one is, a lot of times debt's about getting motivated to actually do it. And so this is a teacher strategy that I would really suggest for people who have a lot of debt. Write them down and really celebrate as you cross them out. So if you have 5 debts, you have 2 credit card debts, 2 student loan debts, and a car debt, write them down. And as you're paying them off, celebrate with your family, celebrate with your friends, and cross those out. And I know we did that together, Kevin. I think that really helped, where you had an accountability partner. I asked you about it like once a month. Hey, how much time we got? What did you pay off this month? And it kind of got you fired off of doing it. And then I kept asking you, like, what's life going to look like a year from now when you don't have to pay this anymore? And now that all that $500, $700, $800 can actually goes towards wealth building for you. And I think, again, to have that accountability partner or have that motivation on your wall could really help, because debt really crushes you, specifically credit card, car debt. It's got to go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. And then final piece here is the emergency fund. So we had budget, paying off your debt, and then our emergency fund. So typically, most people, I suggest an emergency fund between 3 and 6 months of expenses. And this is one thing nice about having that budget. So you should go up to your budget, and you should see like, hey, this is how much I need to live on and survive per month. If there was an emergency, there's nothing I can do about these bills. They need to be covered. So my suggestion is to go up there, look at that amount and multiply by 3, which gets you 3 months of expenses, and then multiply by 6, it gets you 6 months of expenses. And you want your emergency fund to be somewhere in there. If you have a job where it's really reliable, having on the low end maybe is okay. If you're at a job where you know you have a lot of months that go up and down, you have a chance of being laid off, then being on the far 6 months or even more end is a really good place to be.
Can we run through some specific hypotheticals, maybe run a couple numbers?
Sure. So let's talk about someone who is 20 to 30 years old, who is, who's single, doesn't have any kids at home. So let's just say they are spending around $1,800 a month. Okay. So if their expenses are that, they would want to multiply that by 3, which is $5,400, then multiply that by 6, which is $10,800, and they want to be somewhere between there. If they're a teacher, if they have $5,000 or $6,000 in emergency funds, I'm pretty comfortable with it. Their job's pretty secure, especially if they have tenure. If they're at a situation where they are just starting a new job in a business that may not be around a year or two from now, I think being on the farther end of that amount is really important to be. Now let's shift gears and let's say you have a family and your expenses now are, let's say, $3,000 a month. So I would advise that client to be, if you multiply that by 3, you're at 9,000 if you have more of a stable job, and all the way to $18,000, maybe up to $20,000 if you have a job that you just don't know about. And then finally, if you're retired or if you're not having normal income that's coming in, having 1, 2, 3, 4 years of emergency funds is not a bad thing either. So for my friends listening out here that are that just retired and having a nice pot of money that's sitting there on a rainy day is not a bad thing either. But for our listeners, mostly you multiply your monthly expenses by 3 and 6, and you want to be somewhere in there. Now, Kevin, for you, you don't own a house, you're renting right now. But
Yep.
think about the emergencies that could happen in your life. That would just like really make your life really, really stressful. You may have an issue with your car, right? But you're not going to have too many big issues with your house. So you being on the low end of that for an emergency fund might make sense.
Yeah.
However, if you own the house that you're living in and your dryer could go out anytime, like we've had issues with, our sink has, or our bathroom has an issue. Like these are larger expenses that could really put a damage into your financial picture. And so to have some backup money ready to go in those situations is really, really helpful.
Yeah, some of those numbers definitely seem pretty intimidating, especially if you're only just starting this process. But I can say, having gone through those first few steps with you, once you make that truly honest budget and do some introspective soul searching about where your money is going and why, those numbers do become much easier to achieve, especially once you get in that habit of paying yourself first.
Right. And once you got out of debt, Kev, then there's money for the majority of people out there. If you actually wrote down your money and assigned it a task, there is dollars there that are going wasted. And if you can maneuver those and shape those and direct those into these goals, paying off debt, building an emergency fund, I think you'll find some money in there. And it's not, for some people, this may be a year or two process, building an emergency fund. It might be 3 years to build an emergency fund. For some people, it might be a few months. And everyone's on their own journey based on your own circumstance, the salary you make and, the amount of money you spend. But having that budget and knowing, hey, here are my holes, this is where I can move and maneuver money to would really matter.
Right. Before we shift into our sort of last piece, were there any other final comments or advice you wanted to give?
Yeah, we're going to be talking. I keep getting on our Facebook page, we've gotten a lot of questions about when are we going to talk about investing, and that is coming. So the next step after you have an emergency fund is the fun stuff, which is where we start, where do we put our money to invest, what goals do we have to be able to drive that investment part, and that's when compounding really starts to happen. But we have so many people out there that are trying to invest money before having that emergency fund, and that's when they have issues. Because the moment there's a market crash, and they have to go into their investments that have dropped value, they end up losing money. But if you have that a cushion and emergency fund, investing becomes a lot less risky. So these 3 steps are the basics, they're foundational, and just having a budget in your head doesn't work. Write it down, hold yourself accountable to them, have that roadmap.
Awesome. So for our very last piece, I know that we usually do some hacks, and maybe we'll still do some hacks. But I also wanted to pose a kind of a new thing to you, if you're open to it.
Yeah, you throw me in the hot seat today.
I sure am. Okay, so this is the happy meter. We're trying to make our financial choices based on the happy meter and all that stuff. So I want to pose you what I'm calling a happy hypothetical. Okay.
Okay.
And this is rooted in our real life. And I wanted people to see how we think differently, but how there are more ways to think of situations. So one of our best friends, we were at his wedding. We were in the same teaching organization together. He just had his first baby girl with
Yeah.
his wife. Yeah, congratulations to them. I don't want to air their business out too much, but people that know us know exactly who we're talking
And
about.
did it during a scary time. And both of them, we spoke right before and after, and they were so strong. They're amazing.
Yeah. So my happy hypothetical to you is, they did the baby shower, and now the baby's here. What gift do you give? As a close friend, we know that we are obligated to support them and to do something. And so I wanted to pose for our audience as well as for you, Justin, and I'll share mine as well.
I think you should start, Kevin. What did you buy? What would you
Yours is
suggest?
so
Because
much
we
better.
talked a lot about this.
But so again, the happy hypothetical to our listeners, someone you're really close with just had a baby. What do you do? So my first thought is to get something special sort of for each member of that family. Although it's not, the baby's new to the world, so everything's special. So I'd probably get like diapers, and I would ask the parents, like, what size do you need? Because I know that diapers are sized in some way. And I would probably get, for this particular father, I'd probably get him like a bottle of whiskey, so that we can maybe toast the health of the child at this, ceremonial moment. And for new mom, I'd probably again reach out to her and ask what she wanted, or maybe ask the best friend and the father what to do. But I would try to get like sort of one item for each. One's very practical for baby, and then one is kind of like me and dad, and then for mom, something that would make her feel more comfortable shortly after childbirth. I would imagine that I would be investing probably like $100 into that whole thing.
Yep.
And that's what my first thought is. Okay. What do you think,
Yes.
John?
So I'm a big fan of, for baby gifts or even for baby showers or any of these situations, is to open up what's called a college 529 account. So a 529 account allows you to be able to give money towards that child's education later on in life. And so Maryland has a lot of cool matching programs out there that allow you to be able to get some bonuses along with it. But for this situation, I opened up a 529 college account, put some money into that account for the child. And what's cool is every year they're going to get a statement for this amount that hopefully grows and grows and grows, because I have it invested in something. And 20 years from now, that sum of money, I think it's going to be a nice little pocket of cash for a possible education of the child. And so what makes me really happy is that every year when they get the statement mailed to them, they're going to be able to look and smile at watching that one little bit of money has grown over and over and over again. And for me, that makes me happy, is for the next 18 years, that's going to matter. And so that's what I would have done.
Yeah. Well, and for the people playing at home, the thought here for both of us is that our happy meter does dictate that we're in these relationships. And that as we get older, our friends are going to get married more often. They're going to have children. And as people in their lives, we are, obligated, or not obligated. It's a good thing, but like part of our happy meter is to do these. So Justin and I had the conversation and I took my investment and with Justin, not to talk too much about the actual money, but I contributed as well to that same gift, because he convinced me in the long run, that's so much better than the mere consumable of like the whiskey and the diaper or whatever else. Although if they need diapers, shout out to the new parents. I'm here for them and I got them. But
Well,
yeah,
I think it'll be really cool though. Every year they're gonna open up that statement and think about us and on our house, because we all contributed to this together. And what's even better is, who knows where life's going to be in 18 years, but when the baby goes to school, the possibility the baby goes to school, this little bit of money would have grown to something, and hopefully they'll be able to share stories about our time together with their parents. And so that makes me really happy to think about. And for those of you who don't know, a 529 college account is a way for you to save save for your kids' education, or even for your own education. And the gains that grow in there. So let's say that $1,000 turns into $5,000 in 20 years. The gains in there, if you use towards school, are totally tax-free. So normally you'd have to pay taxes on the gains that your investments make. But if you are in this 529 account and that money goes into anything education related, that all those gains are tax-free, and you can just contribute it to that school. And so it's a pretty cool, powerful vehicle to start. And again, if you start when a kid's just being born, 1 or 2, a little bit of money can compound to be quite powerful later on in life.
And what an amazing gift. Just
Yeah.
forward thinking, and it also centers not just on our happy meter, but on the values of that family as well. So,
Yeah.
well done. Thank you for guiding me to a better gift giving decision.
It was fun, and I was really cool to watch them open that and be really confused at the beginning, and then understand how powerful it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So that concludes my happy hypothetical, and also brings us home on another episode of the Happy Meter. Justin, as always, it was really good catching up with you.
It was a lot of fun, and everybody worked through those steps. It's progress is, it could be look different for everybody, and everyone's going to move at their own speed, and just keep working at it. We know you can do it.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good
All right,
week.
everybody. See you later.